This morning's ancient witness comes from John 1, verses 1 through 14. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word was present to God from the beginning. Through the Word, all things came into being, and apart from the Word, nothing came into being that has come into being. If the Word was life, and that life was humanity's light, a light that shines in the darkness, a light that the darkness has never overtaken. Then came one named John, sent as an envoy from God, who came as a witness to testify about the light, so that through his testimony everyone might believe. He himself was not the light. He only came to testify about the light. The true light illumines all humankind. The Word was coming into the world, was in the world, and though the world was made through the Word didn't recognize it. Though the Word came to its own realm, the Word's own people didn't accept it. Yet any who believed in that name were empowered to become children of God, children born not of natural descent, nor urge of flesh, nor human will, but born of God. And the Word became flesh and stayed for a little while among us. We saw the Word's glory, the favor and position a parent gives to an only child, filled with grace, filled with truth.
This is the word of the Lord. May some enlightenment from this reading be offered to you this morning. Like many people, some of you perhaps, the song Christmas in the Trenches, from the story of the Christmas truce of 1914, I first heard through this composition from John McCutcheon. I'd never heard that story before that. But when I heard this song, I was inspired to do a little deeper historical research on this true, though perhaps embellished, event. Now, when this event took place, it was just the beginning, the first winter of World War I. A war in which over 8 million soldiers died and something like overall 30 million people perished. It was the very first winter of warfare in what would be a long, bloody 4-year stalemate of history's first modern conflict using airplanes, tanks, machine guns, poison gas, and any number of other implements of mass destruction not previously seen before. As the story is told, and at its core is verifiably true, spontaneous truces over the periods of Christmas through New Year's in the miserable cold weather of 1914 took place independently all along the hundreds of miles of trenches at the Belgian-German border. The no man's land between these two fighting sides was on average a mere 50 yards. So as recorded witnesses reported, the truce, or should I say truces, since there were multiple sections along the battle lines where these spontaneous outbreaks of peace took place, these truces often began with the hearing of a song. In the rendition from John McCutcheon's piece, Silent Night rings out across no man's land. Perhaps it was some other Christmas tune, it matters not. Now, it doesn't take much to imagine the setting, of course. A bitter cold, a muddy, miserable trench, the missing of warmth and family, a realization of the whole conflict's absurdity. Perhaps the madness of a sniper picking off your friend with whom you were just talking moments before. And then, Out of this miserable condition comes a sound. It echoes to the scripture. In the beginning was the sound, the word. And the word in this 1914 event is a chorus of human voices singing across 50 yards of no man's land. A song of beauty and hope, a song that these countrymen steeped in the Christian narrative would nostalgically understand. A song that would break for a moment the evil spell of warfare and assume twisted realities of human existence, inevitable hatreds, and violence. Breaking forth across this no man's land would be a song of hope and beauty of the Christ child born to an ordinary family and entering into the world quietly unnoticed and uninvited. The story of an imagined cold night long ago when surprised shepherds heard from angelic beings, peace on earth, goodwill toward all. For these angelic hosts brought to these shepherds tidings of great joy. Born unto you in the city of Bethlehem, found in a stable, a newborn child, the Christ, the Prince of Peace. So there's something about the Christmas truce of 1914 that is both hopeful and at the same time tragic and sad. The beauty and hope of this, of course, is that it happened at all. It happened because we might say God showed up. Or maybe, more accurately, we should say humans showed up for God. The juxtaposition of what is light and dark in this 1914 story is about as profound as you can imagine. The dark, warfare, the killing of people with whom young conscripted soldiers have no personal quarrel. They rarely do. Thrust into a meat-grinding enterprise of war they had nothing to do with starting. Killing because others, foolish elders in power, pass on to the young the toxic mantle of hate under the guise of love of nation. Such leaders compel the young to commit crimes only a psychopath would do alone under the so-called normal conditions. The young are set up into a situation of brutes, where it's kill or be killed. And if you had no quarrel with the so-called enemy at first, once you've seen your friends and comrades killed by the other, it's a short step toward the hardened heart seeking revenge. And so lives the long ago story, we might say, told of Cain and Abel. Though I never, of course, well, not of course, but confessionally have not been a soldier, from where I observe, this is what war tends to be, doing horrible things that run counter to our human nature of original blessing and goodness. War robs us, whether we are participating directly in it or not, robs us of our humanity, our divine image, the sacred human spark created and meant for goodness. War. Why? This is not our destiny. And this is the Christmas message: peace on earth, goodwill to all humankind. And then, of course, the other side of the story, the light. Suddenly, on a cold 1914 Christmas in Europe, the dove of peace descends, and miraculously, for a moment, the veil of war's fog lifts. And for a brief moment, as if the earth had flipped its polarities, the men come together as brothers. They are catalyzed by the singing of one Christmas hymn. The sound of one lovely human voice can do that. And though the moment of peace was brief and fleeting, the memory is eternal. And why this story and innumerable less famous stories is important is because It proves to us, it reminds us, the listeners, that the world of darkness and self-imposed suffering that we humans inflict upon the world doesn't have to be. It's not foreordained. We are not the helpless victims of some immutable curse, some original sin of innate depravity. There is divinely baked in goodness of humanity waiting to be called out. So in these shrouds of darkness, there are cracks of light that shine through. For now, as Paul told us, we see dimly, but at some time and sooner than we might think, we shall see the fullness of light. This light, all around us, and yet it's obscured by our own amplified fears and ignorances. It's not any less present, and it is than it always is, and it's present everywhere. And it waits to be revealed wherever love and kindness manifest in the embodied love of spiritual beings, which we are. Christ is born wherever human beings practice kindness. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, the story tells us. That's an amazing theological claim. And while I know we can all be confused by this divine human paradox, especially when it comes to understanding the person of Jesus, still found in this one sentence, I believe, the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, is the mysterious core of our faith. God with us. Our faith isn't about some distant sky God, abstract source of being. Our faith is about God embodied with us. God with us in the midst of the stench and the messiness and the everyday decay of life. We are not alone, and better yet, the one that dwells with us is the one that bears the light and calls us to live that light, because at our very core, we are beings of light, light bearers. That's what our calling is to be. It's just kind of obscured by our fears and our ignorance, caught up in systems we seem to feel we have no control over. Yet we bear that light. It cannot be extinguished. The other extremely profound theological claim in this sentence, a light that shines in the darkness and the light that the darkness has never overtaken. The light, understood in the reality or in symbol in Jesus' birth, comes into the world of corruption, chaos, funk, and confusion. In other words, the light almost blends in imperceptibly, unpretentiously, for the most part, even today. Then this Jesus, at the time of his calling to ministry, his life work, he heals, preaches, teaches, and shows us both in his words and his actions how this light is manifest into the world. This light enters completely into the fray. The Christmas story is the beginning of the story. It's a foreshadowing of what is to come, which at the end of the story, the Easter story, we remember the light enters into the suffering and takes on the suffering, tried, tortured, convicted, and crucified. And still, our Christian story proclaims the light was not overcome. On the third day, our faith proclaims the risen Christ, ratifies this truth about light not being overcome by darkness. Love wins. We're a part of that. Light overcomes the darkness. We don't have to be afraid. Jesus said, I come that you might have life and have it in abundance. I thought of this, this story and the fact of, and juxtaposing it with this odd thing we humans do called hating each other, warring after each other. I thought of a poem it's a rather long poem. I won't say the whole poem, by Wendell Berry, but it's a poem where, this is back in the Cold War time, he's looking at a picture in a National Geographic of a Siberian family, Russian family, a woodsman, and playing with his family in the warmth of their house. And in this, the part of this poem I love is, he asks a question as he's pondering this family far away. He says, who has invented our enmity? Who has prescribed us hatred of each other? Who has armed us against each other with the death of the world? Who has appointed me such anger that I should desire the burning of your house or the destruction of your children? Who has appointed such anger to you? Who has set loose the thought that we should oppose each other with the ruin of forests and rivers and the silence of the birds? Who has said to us that the voice of my land shall be strange to you and the voices of your land strange to me? Who has imagined that I would destroy myself in order to destroy you, or that I could improve myself by destroying you? Who has imagined that your death could be negligible to me now that I have seen these pictures of your face? Who has imagined that I would not speak familiarly with you, or laugh with you, or visit in your home and go to work with you in the forest? And now, one of the ideas of my place will be that you would gladly talk and visit and work with me. This is where light comes into the world. When we begin to question, who has created this enmity toward others? People we don't even know. We share this common humanity. And the Christmas message is, to me, about the humanity, divine human humanity that comes into the world and reminds us that we carry that too, and that there is light that will break forth into the darkness. And it may be in small ways, be ways that we don't credit ourselves as being important. But I will submit, and I think you will agree, that anytime, anywhere we show kindness to another, as well as to ourselves, that light has come into the world, and the darkness cannot overcome that kindness.